Well, hello and welcome to another video in this series where we're taking a closer look at the MSI, the market strength indicator from quantum trading. And as I've explained in earlier videos, what I'm trying to do here is really to get you think outside the box a little bit in terms of how to apply the indicator and how to use it in ways that perhaps you might not have considered. So really that's what this series of videos is about. We're looking at ETFs, we're looking at stocks, index futures, we look at commodities. And rather than simply looking at the market strength indicator as those opportunities for overbought and oversold, which it certainly is, where we can get into a reversal trend position early by virtue of looking at those overextended regions, and also the strength of trends as they develop, so jumping on a trend once underway. Here I'm moving the conversation on really to look at other ways we can use the indicator to look at the groups of markets where we're looking for the confirmation of broad strength. In other words, is sentiment across that group universal, or have we got divergence, which we looked at in an earlier video when we were considering the ETF indices. And here I've moved to sectors because, again, it's something that you might not instantly think of as being applicable for such an indicator, but I can assure you it is. And because they're ETFs, they work exactly like stocks. So in addition to that, we also have the advantage of volume. So it gives us a double whammy, if you like. And what I've done here in this video is to break the sectors up into two groups. I've got five on this one, six on this one and five on the other one. So we'll go on to the other workspace in a moment. And I've also picked off one. I think I've gone for the XLK across the time frames just to look at it from a volume price analysis methodology standpoint. So here we are. We've got time frames. I've gone to the daily, the weekly, and the monthly here for our three time frames. And as you can see over on the daily here, we've got our six sectors. We've got the XLK, the XLI, the XLY, the XLU, the XLE, and the XLP. And again, what the indicator does is gives you this wonderful visual immediacy of seeing the sectors which are strong, which are not so strong, which are reversing, which have been strong in the past and are now weak and perhaps overbought, and which are potentially oversold. So it gives you all this information, and of course you can use this in any time frames. I've just gone to the slower time frames here, just to mix it up a little bit, because we do spend a lot of time on the faster ones purely because it's great for educational purposes. But the indicators work in precisely the same way, whatever it is, whatever time frame you're using. And what we're looking at here, as you can see, is pretty much universal sentiment across the sectors, not wholeheartedly. The interesting standout one here, I guess, is energy, the XLE, which got up into a pretty strong overbought region here and then has really started to reverse in the last few days. So you will have seen that certainly in terms of the context of the chart for sure, and of course in terms of volume as well. So that's certainly interesting. We're seeing that reverse, but everything else is very much going in the opposite direction. And the other standout here, of course, is the XLP, which is consumer staples. Very strongly overbought up here back in the end of the month and in July. And then we saw a really, really strong move lower for the whole of that sector. And again, this just gives you this information, whether you are perhaps heavily invested in consumer staples, whether you're looking at investing in consumer staples. When is a good time to be investing in them? Well, clearly not at the top here, certainly from a daily perspective at any rate. Of course, everything differs when you move over to the weekly and the monthly, because this is just a daily. And to pick up on a point that we make repeatedly throughout the webinars, the videos that we record, everything, trends, and it doesn't matter whether you're looking at a sector chart or a stock chart or ETF, whatever it is, trends will always start in the fastest time frame and then migrate through to the slowest time frame if they are indeed reversals. And essentially that's what you're looking at all the time. You're looking at your fastest time frame, which in this case happens to be the daily. You're then looking out to the weekly and out across to the monthly for confirmation of that trend, if it is a strong trend, to develop right the way across the time horizons. Moving down onto the weeklies and the monthlies, pretty similar here. And what we're looking for those opportunities perhaps where we might be looking to invest. So certainly XLE, energy, got right down here, down towards very strongly oversold, beg your pardon. And now we're seeing that very strong rally in terms of the energy sector there. Counter to that, we had this purple line here, which is the XLK, which has been moving off those highs. It's now starting to flatten a little bit. So you see all of this related, the XLU, which is the utilities, that's really not going anywhere at the moment, but it has been strongly oversold. It's come back quite a little bit of a way in the last few months, but it's not moving particularly strongly at the moment. And of course, utilities will really come into their own once a recession starts to bite, along with cyclical stocks, where we're looking for moves in much more into consumer staples and out of consumer discretionary, of course. And we'd be looking at utilities, particularly in that environment, and probably technology will come off as well at that point. So all those sectors will play out, and of course they play out against the backdrop of what is going on in the broad equity market in general. What is the sentiment towards equities right now? And again, you can see all of that revealed. We've got the XLK rising quite strongly here. We've got the XLI there as well. That's industrials. Against that, we've got utilities, which is falling quite strongly at the moment and just starting to recover a little bit, as we see over here on this much slower time frame. So maybe if a recession is on the horizon, with this very high inflation, which is being hit with very high interest rates, which is really causing a lot of problems throughout, really starting with the housing industry, where we're seeing falling prices and we're going to see mortgage foreclosures and all the rest of it continuing, then that may well be an opportunity to get involved into the utilities sector at that point. We will see. But this is what the sectors reveal, and I wanted to really bring it all together in this one workspace, and we'll hop onto the other one as well. Very similar principles. But again, it's just to give you some ideas of ways of using the indicator in an unusual, in a creative way, if you like, where perhaps I'm trying to plant the seeds in your mind of ways that you could use it that you perhaps might not otherwise think of as being an immediate choice. Now let's hop over onto the second workspace, where I've got the other sectors. And here we are, exactly the same time frame. So we've got the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. And again, you can pick these off for yourselves. What's going on in terms of communication services, XLC? That's been this black line that's been rising quite strongly. Reversed a little bit here. Also, you can see immediately which of the sectors have been very weak, where they were very strong and then reversed. And of course, much of this reversal here was also aligned with what was going on in terms of the broad market itself, where we see a sell-off. Then a lot of these sectors are going to suffer at the same time, not all of them and not to the same degree, which is why sectors are such an integral part of not only investing but also of trading as well. Just to understand what is going on in terms of the sectors, how they're playing out, how they're relating to the broad economy, how they are relating to the economic cycle, when is a good time to invest, when is the best time to buy, when is a good time to be selling. And really that's what this is revealing on this particular time frame. But of course you can use it on an intraday basis in exactly the same way to see which sectors are performing well on an intraday basis and which are performing not so well. And that, of course, generally, not always, but generally will align to stocks, broadly speaking, in that group. Not all boats rise on a rising tide or fall on a falling tide, of course, but it just gives you background and context for whatever it is you're doing, whether you're an investor, as you would be on these slower timeframes, or whether you're a trader using sectors in this way on a faster time frame. Finally, just to round off, let's move on to, I've only picked off one here, I've just gone for technology, I think. Let's just have a quick look at that workspace from a VPA perspective. And here we are on the technology fund, the XLK. I'm not going to go through all these timeframes, but very quickly, let's just pull up the daily here. Let's see what's going on. Let's move that up there a little bit. There we go. Of course, you would have other indicators on here. You maybe have your trend monitor on here. You certainly have accumulation distribution. You might have VPOC. You'd have volatility, and all of those good things. But I've just kept this very simple. I've just got tick volume at the bottom and just the price chart. And we will be looking at this from a VPA perspective. What is going on? Well, clearly we're getting up to some important areas. The market, the sector tried to break through this region before, got up to this level and reversed very strongly, and that, of course, aligned with particularly with what is going on in broader equity markets. But it just gives you context for the sector, how it's behaving. You can see here the volume here. We've got, broadly speaking, a rising sector, but the volumes here are generally speaking falling, which they are. And therefore, again, it gives you a view from a VPA perspective. And bear in mind, this is a sector chart. This is not a stock. This is not a single ETF. This is a sector we're looking at here. So it's bringing together a lot of data here and really telling us about what is going on in terms of the broad market for that particular group of stocks or ETFs, whatever they may be. But as you can see, we've got rising price here. We've got rising prices. We've got narrowing spreads here, but we've got falling volume. So perhaps we're seeing a pause point here and maybe a reversal. We might see get into this resistance area here and reverse as it's done before. It's just another piece of the puzzle that we use. Again, an important piece of the puzzle that we include in all our analysis, whether we're using indicators, which are really very supportive. And I've made this point constantly. The indicators there are supportive of our VPA methodology, but also bring together a lot of data very simply, very conveniently, very visually, as the market strength indicator does, and give you it all in one workspace without having hundreds of charts all over the place. It really is a super indicator. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Lots more to come as always. See you soon, and bye for now.